before anything appears on YouTube.
Yeah.
Just make sure that we can hear me clearly.
It's got this little countdown there, so it's supposed to go live at one and then go live. It just pops into the internet. Yeah.
As soon as the feed arrives, the stream arrives, I think it goes live. Anything yet? Open up studio.youtube.com.
Oh, that's
Exquisite croissants today.
I told you.
Maybe that's not good. We can see that. I guess it's then the public one goes live at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So at least we've got a stream coming through. Okay, so let me just check. Can you turn up the volume so you can hear anything?
Oh, wait, but then I've got my
I think that should be. No, it should be like once you're live, you don't need to turn it on.
It's gonna pull us something like that.
I just want to check if you hear anything from here. Brilliant. I'm going to get started, and I think people will roll in as we do it. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody to here, everybody who's watching online for. I should make sure I'm in front of the camera so people can see me, shouldn't I? So thank you very much to everybody who's here, everybody who's watching online, for attending this latest Curious Talk, where we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence and how artificial intelligence can kind of supercharge creativity. So let's start with a broad overview of the market. There's an awful lot going on in AI and creative tools at the moment, everywhere from video to artificial synthetic speech to fashion to avatars. There's a bit of a revolution of AI sweeping everywhere. But the thing that we want to focus on, the thing that I want to focus on today, is this section here, using artificial intelligence to generate brand new images. And it seems like a lifetime ago now, but it was only about 3 years ago. I don't know if you remember this website that went around, "This face does not exist." And every time you refresh the page, you get a new human face that's been generated by AI. They're not photographs, although they look incredibly photorealistic. So the stage we're at today is kind of, what if this, but for everything? What if we could just generate an image of anything from a simple command? And this is possible now with a breakthrough in image generation AIs. What they do is you give them a command, a simple text sentence, and they make entirely new pictures from that text description. So if you tell it that you want a photo of a corgi dog riding Times Square, wearing sunglasses and a beach hat, it will make you a picture that does exactly that. So this looks like stock photography. It is not stock photography. This image has never existed before in human nature until someone typed that command into a box and a system generated it. It's incredibly photorealistic. So we could almost think of this at its most basic fundamental level as stock photography for things that have never existed, or stock images or photos that have never been taken. I want to start with a little, now that we've kind of established what I'm talking about, I want to start with a little warm-up game. It's not one of those ones where you turn to your person to your left and tell them something about you. It's a little quiz that I'm going to call Real or AI. And I want you all to play along. If you've seen this before, don't play along and spoil it for everybody else. So I went for a walk recently through East London, and I saw one of these two statues. Which of these two statues did I see? A or B? Anybody shout an answer? B. A, B. It was B. So A has been generated from this photograph that I took, but I used AI to replace that statue with that statue. Second question, in this picture, which elements are real and which are fake? Can you tell me which are real and which are fake? Anybody? Don't be shy, go on, shout one out. The UFO is fake. Anything else? Well, I'll tell you, the UFO is fake. The gorilla suit is fake. But actually, the only real thing in that picture was that picture of the church, which I uploaded. So not only is the UFO fake and the gorilla suit fake, but all of the background behind them has been generated by AI as well. How about this picture? Real or AI? Which elements are real and which are AI? Anybody? The tree is fake. Okay. The entire thing is fake. I generated that image from scratch. None of these elements have ever existed. Real or AI? Real, AI? It's this is a trick question. It's augmented reality. It's neither of the two. Real or AI? AI, you can see it's AI because the spokes are weird. It doesn't look like a bike. It's sort of bike-ish, but it's not exactly a bike. I went on holiday recently. Is this picture of me on holiday real or AI? AI? Okay, it's actually a real photo, but an AI hat. I was wearing that hat. So I got it to generate a new hat. What's interesting about this is not only generated the hat, but it's filled in the clouds, and it's also filled in my forehead, which didn't exist in the original picture before. Real or AI?
Real cake.
It's cake. Real or AI? AI, this one is AI. This one usually tricks people out because of the badly painted skirting board. AI can generate pictures of badly painted skirting boards, it turns out. So well done, everybody. That was pretty good. I think you got most of them right. So how does this stuff work? It sort of depends on 4 breakthroughs in the last sort of 10, maybe more years in machine learning. Number 1 was when AI learned to understand text. You could tell it, give it a sentence, and it would kind of broadly understand the point of that sentence and be able to do things with it. It's how Google Search works, it's how Google Assistant and Siri work, and so on. Number 2 was when it learned to understand images that we had labeled with text. So if we gave it 10,000 pictures of a cat, clearly labeled cat, and then said, give it another image and said, is this a cat? It would be able to say, yes, that is a cat. The next step was it then learned to label images with text itself. When it understood enough concepts, you could give it a photograph and it could tell you what was in that photograph. This is what we use every day as well. If you use Google Photos, Apple Photos, Facebook, when you upload a photo, it understands what's in your picture and uses that for kind of contextual search and so on. And the final step was then AI learning to generate images from text. So taking all of those things together, combining it with an image generation system, so you're able to type a sentence and it's able to then generate an image based on its understanding of the sentence. So AI image generators actually work on 2 levels. There's the image generation level, there's also the kind of the semantic understanding. I call this process typo, which is text in, picture out. Nobody else calls it that, I just made this up, but I like it because typo is kind of related to text. So you text in, picture out. That enables you to do things like, say you want a picture of a plush toy sitting against the yellow wall, which is what we had previously. A 3D render of a rainbow-colored hot air balloon flying above a reflective lake. That's very cool because you can see it's actually done the reflection in the picture, which you might not expect, but it's smart enough to understand that. Or a 3D render of a cute tropical fish in an aquarium on a dark blue background, digital art style. This is interesting because they've actually started to be more prescriptive about the type of result they want to get. The actual deep down way it works, and you really don't need to know this, but I'm just going to show you anyway, is it basically works by making noise and then using probability to reverse engineer that noise into a picture. Yes, it's extremely complicated. It's called parametrized reverse diffusion. I barely understand it myself, but it's, in essence, that's what's going on. It starts with a load of noise and then uses probability to work back from that noise into the image that you requested. You can sort of see this in action using one of the main services, which is called Midjourney. If I tell it I want a picture of a capuchin monkey piloting a biplane, you can see the process it goes through. It starts off very vague and sort of quite undefined, and with each step, it starts to add more and more and more definition until it gets to the image you want. Although in none of those cases, it's managed to draw a biplane. And that's quite interesting that the thing about these systems is you never know quite what you're going to get. You might type in the text and expect a response, but you probably won't get the exact response you want. And that is just the same as we communicate with each other. If I were to say to you, think of a girl standing by a lake, you'd all think of a girl standing by a lake, but it would be a different lake, it would be a different girl, it would be a different composition, it would be a different time of day. All of the ways that you imagine that girl by the lake would be different. And that's no different to the way these systems work. The second thing is they just don't get some concepts, especially and notably quantities. They're really bad at quantities. I gave it a command and said, I want 4 people standing on a pier looking up at a starry sky. The 2 images I got as results were 3 people and 5 people. It just didn't understand 4 people, and it will often just bring in people from randomly that you haven't asked for. My third disclaimer is that your results will often look not very good. I was trying to do some pictures of the meerkats, trying to generate pictures of meerkats. They didn't quite come out as I expected. Sort of, I don't know, Ukrainian solidarity poster down here. This meerkat's got 4 eyes. So it doesn't always quite, so you have to go through a few rounds of testing and tweaking and trying again and changing your prompt and so on. I'm going to come back to that a little bit later. First, I want to talk a little bit about some of the services that are available. The first one that I just mentioned is called Midjourney. Midjourney was the one that kind of kick-started a lot of the conversation and a lot of the, if you've been following Instagram or you've been following LinkedIn, you'll see loads of photos of Midjourney. Midjourney is by design a system that gives very artistic results. It's trained on the work of artists and not photographers. So it will give you things that look like paintings, it will give you things that look like sketches, designs, animations, whatever. It won't give you back photorealistic results. And that's by design, that's by intention. It's for people to imagine new things rather than to make photographs. I've got a very quick video showing it in action. I showed it to you earlier before, but Midjourney works through Discord. So you connect your account, you type in imagine, and then the thing you want to imagine. So here I'm going for a portrait photo of an Asian warrior chief with tribal panther makeup, feathered headdress, blue on red, side profile, looking away, serious eyes. So you can start to see the results that it gives you here. So it's got some of it quite good, like an old warrior chief, tribal panther makeup, feathered headdress, that's good, blue on red, although sometimes it's interpreted that as blue skin on, sometimes it's interpreted that as blue skin on red, but it's got a few things wrong as well. It didn't go for the side profile and so on. But you saw the results there were kind of very painterly, very artistic, sort of by intention. What you can also do with Midjourney, which is quite interesting, is you can, with your results that you have there, you can say, I want to upscale that picture. That means make it high definition, add more detail to it. But you can also say, but I quite like this one here. So I want you to make 4 new versions based on that one. So Midjourney is really good and makes it really easy for you to constantly be trying, I like that, but it's not quite right. Let's mix that with this one. Let's make new versions of that and be able to train to get to the result you want. And the final output is quite high definition, as I said, quite painterly by design. Is our guest here? Great. The second one, probably the most famous one at the moment in terms of sort of headlines, is DALL-E, or DALL-E 2. Now, DALL-E 2 is more of a broad system. It works in a similar way to Midjourney, except it also includes photographs. So you can get very photographic results. So if I give it the same prompt that I give, this is a web-based interface. If I give it the same prompt, I also add that I want it to look like a 50mm portrait photograph with hard lighting. So I've given it be more specific about what I want, about the type of result I want to get. So when it comes back, the results are much more photographic. They're way less painterly. They're still quite artistic, but they're much more photographic. You can see if I click into that one, although there's a few things wrong, the eyes have not quite come out right, but it looks like a photograph that could have existed, and that allows me then to make changes to it. DALL-E also has some really nice, if you are a visual artist or a graphic artist, this will be one that's quite easy for you to get to grips with. You can take that picture and go into edit mode, and then you can, for example, expand that image. So I'm going to add a new area to the side, give it a new command. I'm going to say a neon sign of an arrow, and it's going to take the style of this and generate something new to kind of expand the image outwards. So it then gives me 4 options. I can scroll through those, find the one I want, go, okay, that one, accept that, and it's generated this new image now. And as you can see, it's completely matched the style. That's a process called outpainting. It allows you to take the source image and generate more around it. There's also a process called inpainting, which does the opposites. You can remove elements and replace them with something else. The third of the systems The third of the big systems that are kind of super popular at the moment is one called Stable Diffusion. Stable Diffusion is by a company called Stability.ai. It's, again, very similar to the way these two work, but it's also more of an open approach to them. Instead of being a single tool, they've made the model available to researchers, to developers. They've really kind of, if you see this type of tool, if you see this type of service used in tools in the future, there's a high chance it will be from Stability AI. And I think with that, we are going to go over to our guest. If you just excuse me 1 second.
Hi, guys. Hi. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hi.
Hi, Tom.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
So the sound? It's not coming out here. 1 second. Sorry. We're not getting sound on our TV here. 1 second, Tom. Sorry.
Okay. I think it's. Yeah, I don't think it's me. Can you hear me?
Grab a croissant while I'm doing this.
Testing. 1, 2,
Why
3.
haven't we got any sound coming out?
Testing. Someone's saying they can hear me. I think they can hear me online, but not in the hall, maybe.
Try saying something again, Tom. Sorry.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Can you hear in there?
I can hear him,
Testing.
Sorry about this. 1 second. We thought we had this all sorted.
Testing.
It's actually 1 o'clock in the morning for Tom at the moment, so I really hope we can get this sorted out for him.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Sorry? It's plugged into the TV. There should be sound from the TV. I think actually what's happened is my Chrome has crashed.
Poor Chrome.
Ah, there he is. Okay, hold on 1 sec. Sorry about this, Tom. He is here. Maybe I've got it muted here. Why can't I hear that?
Testing.
Oh, God. Yeah. Sorry. Why am I not getting any sound?
Testing.
I might go to the YouTube stream instead.
I can hear online. It's so annoying.
Yeah, there's no sound coming through the TV here. Okay.
So what if you muted yourself and brought up the live stream?
I'm going to try and get Tom playing through the live stream here instead, so there'll be a little delay. You'll have to hear me saying what the hell is going on.
Testing.
I'm not getting sound through here either.
Testing.
I'm not getting any sound through here either. Sorry, everybody. don't know why we've got no sound here. I cannot work it out.
Testing, testing.
Drastical idea, boy.
Can we just check the box there, see if there's any volume coming out of there?
I turned it up.
That was my volume here, yeah. I don't know what's going on.
It's my floor box.
Yeah, HDMI floor box. I've got it switched to the right thing here.
Carry on, so we come back.
Tom, can you try saying something for us again?
Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing,
I'm
testing.
not getting any sound at all. Tom, can you try saying something for us again?
Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, I've got sound through here, so. Okay, we're going to try and get, there's a little bit of a delay, I reckon, Tom, but if you just start talking, we'll kind of sort it out, okay?
Testing, testing.
You go full screen.
Okay, I think if it's working, can you guys hear me? Let's double check you guys can hear me before I start. Make sure, I don't know if I assume you can hear me. Good to go. Okay, cool, cool. And can you see my screen, yeah? Hopefully you can see my screen. I think you can. Cool, thanks. Glad we got there in the end. So yeah, I'm Tom from Stability, CTO at Stability. Yeah, it's 1 in the morning, so I'm not going to talk for ages. I'll just give you a quick overview. We actually had a launch event in San Francisco yesterday. We basically launched Stable Diffusion and our product Dream Studio about 7 weeks ago. Stability's been going for about a year, founded by CEO Emad Mostak. The strategy basically has been to find research communities in the public and who are working on generative AI models. And I'll talk a bit about that in a minute, but to give them support through funding the lead researchers, but also giving them compute. Compute is kind of one of the key barriers for these models to be developed. We've been developing a very big supercompute cluster with Amazon over the last year. It's now the 10th largest computer in the world. It's called, we call it Ezra 1. It's 4,000 A108s, which is a chip made by NVIDIA. It's an insanely powerful bit of kit, and we basically give out compute slots on that cluster to research communities. So we give them the support to let them train their models at scale, which can be very expensive. The Stable Diffusion model that we've released probably was in the order of $7 million to train of compute time, and that's actually quite a small model, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. So yeah, I came from the community myself. I came from one of the sort of predecessors to these tools called Disco Diffusion, which was a Google Colab notebook that allowed people in the open source community to kind of hack together tools that would make images from text and then animate them. So my kind of passion in all of this is about animation and video, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So we released, I'll go full screen as well. We released Stable Diffusion about 7 weeks ago. Takes text, turns it into images, trained on a data set from one of our communities called Lion, which is an open source data set of about 2 billion images. There's Lion 2B, there's also a Lion 5B, 5 billion images. Those images have been labeled, so they have a description of what they are, and those labels are done by humans. And there's been a huge open source initiative to do that and to make that data set open so that anyone can train models on those images. As Peter was saying earlier, those data sets are used to train the model to produce images from text. So the intermediary step between the text and the image is something called latent space, which is a representation of what that text gets converted to, and is kind of the preliminary step before the denoising. So latent space really is a kind of pre-configuration of the hyperparameters in the model, which for Stable Diffusion it has around 800 million parameters. So you can think of it as like an 800 million dimensional space, which is a bit trippy if you start thinking about it. But it actually represents important things, because things in that space will represent things like colors. It represents things like shape. So you can find concepts in that dimensionality which allow you to do some pretty cool things. But yeah, so the latent spaceman is a kind of bit of a joke. That's kind of the user itself exploring latent space. Then there are, obviously photorealistic images like the Kulin Ridge on the Isle of Skye, and then the DJ Hamster. So it can do some pretty wild things. It can also do, as Peter mentioned, image to image. So image to image kind of in various forms. Image to image can be just an image where you're changing it, but using it as a base for the output. So you put it with a prompt as well. And the second thing was something again was mentioned, which is in painting, where you can use a brush to change part of an image and remove it. So you can take a picture of a dog, and you can add a VR headset and make it VR dog, which is one of our test images. And then Dream Studio itself has got quite a few different settings that allow the user to change things like the width and the height of the image, and they can change various other parameters that are used in the generation process. So we just released we're kind of constantly doing things in the API and the pipeline that change improve the quality of the model. The pipeline itself is a kind of global scalable API that we use for lots of different purposes, and I'll explain a bit about that in a minute. But the latest thing we've done is something called Clip Guidance, which adds another layer of guidance using Clip, which is the text to image data set embeddings, and we use that to add further guidance to the image. And we can create some pretty wacky images, Einstein as a cowboy, and architectural concepts. So yeah, we've in 7 weeks since we launched, it's been quite a big explosion of Dream Studio. We've had 1.5 million users sign up. They've created 170 million images. We initially launched through Discord, which is where Midjourney have their main service, but we kind of ran a bot there for a while that reacted to people, typing messages into the prompt. So like a chat bot that generates images, and that's where we tested and developed the early model. And then that became something that we launched via the API, and Dream Studio sits on top of the API. The thing that really kind of is different about us to everyone else is that we release the model itself to open source. So the model is basically the training of the model takes, could take 6 weeks, with a decent part of that compute cluster that I mentioned earlier. And the model is learning by being trained on the images, and the weights in the model are the thing that are storing those learnings. So the model itself is hugely important piece of data that can be used by anyone in the world now to create services on top of that. We hosted the model with Hugging Face, which is another kind of open source collaboration community around AI. We had 200,000 users who downloaded the model. We've had 800,000 total downloads, and we've seen like thousands and thousands of projects created in the last 7 weeks, which are people building on top of the image model. So they're doing. Anyone can come and develop Dream Studio now. Anyone can come and develop, little tools that either do in painting or out painting. People have worked out how to do things like what's called textual inversion, where you can fine tune the model with 5 or 10 images of yourself. And you can make yourself into a Marvel superhero, into Superman, or other characters. And so you can basically kind of guide it towards very custom content. That's just one example. Textual inversion was like something that was kind of discovered by the community. And so like every day, you know, we see these incredible new projects coming along. And that's been something that I think has really, you know, I mean, has really caused stability itself, but also just the general awareness around the project to kind of explode. So yeah, that's really our strategy going forward, is to kind of have this relationship between open source and the community. And you know, that really gives us the ability to compete at a much larger scale. The compute is one of the, you know, the elements involved in that, but actually, you know, the innovation that's happening from the community right now across all the different modalities, and when I say modalities, I mean different types of model. That's really something that is causing a lot of people to get very excited. Just as a kind of bit of example, so Arxiv is a website that holds copies of published papers by academics. So AI, ML archive papers, you know, in the last sort of couple of years is trending exponentially, which, you know, is quite amazing. Like if you think about it, that's the amount of papers that people are writing, you know, on AI models. So we'll continue to the Stable Diffusion model. We've actually continually trained since release. We've actually internally released several new versions of it that are successively better. And when we get to a kind of next stage, we'll probably in the next month or two, we'll do another release of the next model, and we'll keep doing that every 2 or 3 months. And that's really creating this, you know, insane kind of hype and collaboration around the project, you know, the projects that have been developed in the community. And, you know, we'll support those projects, you know, wherever they need it, really. You know, some of them will turn into, you know, products of their own, platforms of their own. Some of them will develop into different AI models that will help to train, and, you know, we'll kind of just build that collaboration with the community and push it as far as we can go. So those communities, there are the core communities that Stability interacts with, are the following. So we've got Luther AI, which has been around for a few years. They're a very well-known group that are really doing all kinds of things in different modalities, but fundamentally in language models. Language models are things that you may or may not have seen. OpenAI, who developed DALL-E 2, also have GPT-2 and GPT-3. It's a sequence learning that essentially allows you to complete sentences. So you can write books with it, you can write blog posts, you can write. I met a guy the other day who'd basically built a tool that posted restaurant reviews. They posted photos of food, a nice looking food, and then the comments, the actual blog post was generated by GPT-3, and it got so big. He was actually a trader from UBS who just decided to do this as a bit of a pet project. But they'd got the Instagram account got so big that he started getting invites to go and eat in restaurants, because all these, you know, restaurant owners thought that he was the real deal. So he's like this 25-year-old kid who was just eating out, which is quite funny. But Luther AI, yeah, it's just full of you know, these kinds of people who are, but generally working on, you know, some of the core technology in the models themselves, such as diffusion. Catherine Crowson, who developed diffusion, came from Luther, and they've developed some very big open source language models like GPT-3 of their own. Lion is the dataset company that I mentioned. So developed by Christoph Schumann in Germany. He was a school teacher. He kind of started to understand some of the problems around the models being closed source. So CLIP, which was originally developed by OpenAI, probably 2 or 3 years ago, was released, but they've decided not to release any further models since then. So this became a huge problem because CLIP was kind of one of the most important, like, foundational models that was used in developing other image models. And so Christoph basically pulled together this incredible initiative to build the image data sets themselves, but also to develop some open versions of CLIP. And he trained the models with Stability. We support them, you know, through compute and through data architecture and other things. Lion Lion is a hugely important organization. The 2B and 5B image data sets, and now some filtered aesthetic versions of them, are going to power like some of the biggest future image models that we see. They're also developing an audio clip and a video clip, which will be used to generate videos and audio, which I'll talk about shortly. Dream Studio again is the kind of community that I sort of put together before I came into Stability, around Dream Studio and the animation product, which I'll also mention. Carper AI is about the relationship between humans and language. It's developing various different instruction models for doing things like code assistance, so helping people to write code, but also around storytelling. Some of the language models have quite big limitations in terms of their ability to identify, for instance, characters in a story over time. The way that they've been developed don't have these kind of instruction rules sets, so that Lewis from Carper has developed a whole team that's doing kind of sequence-based storytelling, which is really interesting. Harmonize, an audio group which is doing audio diffusion. So this is being able to take data sets of a certain type and then generate new samples, new short form audio in that area. And we're also obviously working on longer form versions, kind of generated music. That's a huge area that's going to explode next year. Audio, AI, and ML is like literally on the precipice. We just released our first notebook from Harmony called Dance Diffusion. You can generate dubstep with it based upon kind of input sets. One of the interesting areas with audio is that unlike images, the data sets aren't open. There aren't these huge databases of music that are just available to download. They're all very secretly guarded by the music companies, and so it's likely that Harmony will probably develop more with partnerships initially, where we develop particular audio models for different companies that want to license their music into new digital forms. That's just going to be a hugely interesting area. Sorry, my phone's ringing. So then last two, one is OpenBioML. OpenBioML is a computational biology group that's doing generative. They have a product called DNA Diffusion, generating DNA sequences. They have some other models for protein folding and other computational biology tasks. And then finally, DeepFloyd, which is a Russian team that moved to the UK last year with our help, and are building a version of Imagen, which is one of Google's early image models. And they've been working on that. So we have teams that are doing different image models, different types of image model. And we also have audio and video is kind of another group that we're just putting together at the moment. Video diffusion, again, is kind of going to be one of the next big horizons. So yeah, the platform basically is split up between data, Eleuther AI and Lion, the research groups, and then the API layer at the top, which is kind of our product ecosystem. So Dream Studio is a product that's consumer, based. We also have the API itself, where anyone can come and just programmatically interact with the API. So we're selling that to a lot of big companies who are wanting to embed generative AI into their creative tools. And that's kind of one of our main commercial strategies, is to basically become a generative foundation for any creative platform that wants to embed generative models into it could be video game companies or who want to augment their asset pipeline. It could be film studios who want to storyboard screenplays, do visual renderings of storyboards. Loads of different applications, graphic platforms. We've done integrations with Adobe Photoshop now, so you can generate images in Photoshop. And if you're familiar with Photoshop, they've got a content-aware fill tool, which will use Stable Diffusion to actively and intelligently replace parts of the image using inpainting, and integrations with products like Blender and Touch Designer and Maya and Unreal, Unity. All these platforms will have generative media as part of the pipeline, the creative pipeline, and our aim is to become the application layer for that. an additional big part of our strategy is about fine tuning. So I mentioned.
I'm going to have to ask
Sorry, is that? You can still hear me, all right? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. I'll rush on because I think we're running out of time. So basically the next horizon is animation. We are about to launch a big animation system which allows people to animate art using 3D transformation and 2D transformation prompt animation with audio activity. That'll be our next big kind of open source release and being part of Studio. It's a full system that allows people to use data to drive elements of the animation using graph-based tools. So you can drag drag prompts over a timeline, and then animate prompts and animate sequences of prompts changing in and out. So you use that to do some incredible things from storyboarding to all kinds of amazing animations. And yeah, last slide. That's kind of what our application there is about. So we'll have image, audio, video, and 3D as all part of this application tool set that will be able to be used by companies and communities around the world. So yeah, thanks for letting me talk. Hopefully that was interesting. Nice to give you an overview of Stability, and hopefully we'll talk in the future. Thanks a lot.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Tom. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Sorry to cut you off. That was our fault entirely. Let's go back. So I'm going to go here. Are we back on in the stream? Yeah, great. All right, I'm going to rush through my last bit really quickly then. So there's a really good Twitter thread here if you want to scan that QR code or check the data afterwards. Sorry? I'm not presenting. Yeah. Sorry. Now I'm presenting. Okay. But you can broadly see how they look when given the same prompts. Midjourney goes very cartoon or painted and quite weird. I'm not even sure what's happening there. DALL-E 2 goes very realistic. Stable Diffusion kind of goes between the two and actually sort of fulfills the brief a bit better. Likewise, paintings and photos, they all do a good jobs. Midjourney's is like some weird alien flowers, but Stable Diffusion actually comes out with a really realistic approach this time. And likewise, if you wanted a fake evidence of the moon landing, you could do it with any of these systems. Midjourney's artistic interpretation of it. DALL-E 2 has gone for some kind of somewhere in between, and Stable Diffusion's gone for extremely sort of realistic photos that would easily start spreading conspiracies around the internet. Disclaimer number 4 is the quality of the result depends upon your ability to be able to describe things well. This is going to be a technology that combines an artistic eye with an ability to be very, very descriptive. This is, for example, is the type of, if you get a very good description like this, so a young woman wearing a red t-shirt, the woman is Asian, the woman is standing on a busy street, the t-shirt is decorated with a cartoon drawing of a panda. There's that random person I told you that occasionally pops into your photos, but each of them interprets in their own different ways, but they all interpret the exact kind of brief that I wanted to give it because I've given it a very, very tight description. Ability to write good prompts is going to be a skill of the future. If you want to see what this could lead to, there's a website called PromptBase where people will sell you good prompts. They've written extremely good, tight, descriptive sentences, and you can buy them like you would buy stock photography. So you can actually buy a sentence from people, and that will allow you then to take it back into one of these systems and regenerate your own images with a very, very good description. Yes, you could write your own prompts. This is more like, I'll pay $4 to save my time and let somebody else do it for me. There are also some good community showcases out there, like Lexica is a search engine for stable diffusion, and this is from DALL-E, I think that's their community showcase, and all of them will show you the prompts that were used to create that image in the first place. They're a really good learning resource. What can you actually use them for? Well, one of them is just kind of nice artistic stuff. I really like this project. This is a guy who created an impossible hotel. He created a shot of every room of every major thing in the hotel using AI machine learning systems. This was from the Melbourne Writers Festival. They used AI to bring to life books, popular books. Not the exact descriptions you've seen here. There's a bit of chicanery going on, but basically using machine learning to describe famous passages from classic books. More prosaically, if you were to, say, present to a client an idea of a Highland cow riding a motorcycle, you could just very quickly create some concept art, which we could put into decks and give to clients. It's really, really good for this. I think this is the best starting point. And in fact, we're already starting to use some of this. This is from Geneva, who was here a second ago and has just left. But Geneva's already using Midjourney in some of her decks to sell concepts into concepts into clients, which I think is a really smart idea. Like here, for example, there was an idea to create a watermelon ice cream that tastes like sushi for the new Harry Styles album, and so she's used Midjourney to generate an image to sort of just sell that concept in. It's like stock up, but as I mentioned before, stock up for things that have never existed before. Also, just for kind of inspiration, this is a Snapchat lens that was built recently that I really like, but he used to design this, DALL-E, to generate some concepts first. There are loads and loads and loads more use cases. Again, another Twitter thread for you to have a look at. It's got 27 examples of just mind-blowing uses that this stuff's being put to. So what is next? Well, Google hasn't thrown its hat in the ring yet, but it has a system that's coming soon called Imagen. Google's system is apparently better, very, very good at generating text. So if you want to generate things with text in that's actually readable, this was going to be a really good system. They've got another system called Party, which allows you to do sort of level fidelity. So if you just do really quick and dirty, you get, I'm not even sure what that thing is, but if you run it all the way to the end, you get these incredibly complex, detailed models. So you can kind of, it depends how much time you have, how much detail you want to go into, you can end up with amazing models like this. And another system from Google called Dream Booth lets you upload a whole bunch of images, and then it will generate new images based on your images, based on your subjects. So if you upload 4 photos of your puppy, you can then put your puppy into loads of different imaginary situations, and it will kind of look realistic every time. Facebook has its own system called Make a Scene. This sort of combines Microsoft Paint with AI. So you can design, you can draw something very simple first. It allows you to compose scenes. So you draw the scene first, and then everything that's generated is based on your composition. And this is, I think what we're going to see, this stuff to me is still mind-blowing, but I think we're already starting to see it become just a tool. It's going to be just a Photoshop plugin. This is a service called Alpaca, which is exactly that. It uses Midjourney as a Photoshop extension, so you can start mixing in your own designs with generated designs and just come up with whole new concepts really, really quickly. It's a superpower for design for artists. Also, Microsoft, like 2 days ago, just announced a new tool called Designer, and that uses DALL-E in exactly the same way. So you type a prompt, it gives you an image, you can then add text to it, send it as a card or download it as a piece of art or whatever. As I said, it's gone from like technological miracle to app feature in about 3 months. Also coming to video soon. So there's an app called Runway, which has just added all of these tools based on this same process. So you can bring in stock things, but you can also remove backgrounds. You can add things to images, all through simple text commands. Here's a quick example of that video. I don't care about the sound this time. But basically, this uses a text interface. So you can say, okay, import a video of a city streets. Now make it look more cinematic. It adds a filter to it. Then remove this object. So you can paint that. So then your lamppost no longer appears in your videos. You could say, also, I want a garden, so generate a picture of a garden for me. Yeah, we'll take that one. And then scaling that, add text to it. It's basically turning video creation into something that you don't need to use a timeline for. Obviously, for fine details and for expert editing, you will. But if you're just making videos very quickly, you can just do it all with text or with voice input. This is really democratizing access to these tools. You no longer need to be an expert to do something that's pretty good. Oh, and yeah, so text to video. We've had text to video is the next step. You just type a text prompt and it will generate videos for you. So if you want a video of, say, a shark swimming in the clear Caribbean Ocean, it will generate this video for you. It's stock up video, but for videos that don't exist. That's coming. Meta's got its own version. Google's got its own version. Actually, Google's got 2 versions coming out soon. So all of this stuff is going to be mind-blowing. Then the next step beyond that is then turning things into 3D objects as well. Take an image and it turns automatically into a 3D object that you can get using games and augmented reality. People who work in the games industry are already using this stuff because it allows you to make loads and loads of assets really quickly. And again, we've got 2 different versions of that coming, one from NVIDIA, one from Google. So does all this is a big question that gets asked a lot, does all this mean the death of imagination? Is this the end of the creativity? Is this the end of art? So you may have seen this headline a couple of months ago, AI-generated artwork won first place at a fine arts competition, and artists were pissed off. You could actually go back about 160 years and use that same headline, slightly modified. A photographic artwork won first place at a fine arts competition, and painters are pissed off. In 1840, Paul Delaroche, who's a famous French artist, painter, saw the first photography and the daguerreotype and said, from today, painting is dead. It's like, I can't match this. If you can just take a photograph of something, everything's over for me. But what happened in art was initially there was a wave of realism, because they suddenly realized that you could use photography to pose models without having to have them there in the studio for you. You could capture scenes from life in a photograph that wouldn't be possible to capture by painting or sketching. So we saw this first initially real wave of super hyper realistic photos. But then what happened after that was a move away. Artists started moving into spaces where where photography could not go. They started moving into impressionism, expressionism, cubism, surrealism, abstract pop, conceptual, contemporary. Art moved into spaces which photography could not deal with. Portraiture is still a thing. Photography is still a thing. It's not one thing kills another. It's one thing enables another or changes another. This is a quote from the founder of Midjourney. When asked what does it mean when computers are better at visual imagination than 99% of humans, which is a time that will come, he said that doesn't mean we'll stop imagining. Imagining is what we do. When we invented cars and trains and buses and lorries, they're better, they can go faster, they can carry heavier things than humans, but that doesn't mean we stopped walking. We just changed, we adapted to this technology, and we used it to enable us to do new things. And I think, for me, this is how we should be thinking of these systems as sort of engines of imagination that we can use to superpower our creative abilities. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you. Help yourself to a croissant or a pan of chocolate. I've got 5 minutes if anybody wants to ask a question, or you can hang around and ask me a question afterwards, but otherwise, very much time. Thank you. Absolutely, and slides and the video. Yeah. I will share the slides and the video shortly afterwards. Yeah.
Just checking the stream.
Well.